Hey folks, Dr. Mike Israetel here for Renaissance Periodization, Strength Training Myths, video number 6. Every workout must be heavy to make you strong. We're going to talk about the claim. We're going to talk about why it's got an element of truth and you can't actually replace heavy training and still expect to be strong or definitely your strongest. But we're going to talk about non-heavy ways of training that can actually make you stronger when combined with heavy training. And we're going to synthesize that finally into one last major holistic approach. Here we go. What is the claim exactly? How does it really come off? Well, people say things like when you're training for strength, you got to go heavy. They also say light work doesn't make you strong. Like that's bitch weight, put some fucking weight on the bar, shit like that. And essentially, if you do any stuff that doesn't fit the mold of like 3 to 6 reps or 1 to 3 reps and hard, people will say like, it's just fluff work. What the hell are you doing? You're wasting your time and you won't get strong this way. And at the very least, some of these people, if not confrontational, will just be inquisitive. Like, why are you doing sets of 10? I thought you were a power lifter. And some of you guys have probably heard that before. And of course you want to roll your eyes completely around in your head, but those folks do have a little bit of a point. And here it is. You can't replace heavy because here's the reality. First of all, for you to get as strong as you possibly can, basic strength training sets of roughly 3 to 6 repetitions that challenge you with RPE 7 or above have to be the core of your strength training. Now, if they're not the core of your training, something else is the core, sets of 5 to 10, sets of 3 to 6 with lightweight but really fast, anything else, you can get stronger for sure, but you can't do your best at getting the strongest. So if you want to be the strongest you can be, most of your training has to be hard, heavy sets of 3 to 6 reps, period. If you, for some reason, don't like this range, I personally don't like it a whole lot. I used to be a powerlifter. I loved it back then. Then I sort of just went a different way, and I realized I liked sort of like higher reps and pump work more. Okay, just marginally more. I still love training for strength, but I like training for hypertrophy a little bit more. If you don't like training in that 3 to 6 range, you're trying to do things to avoid it, strength training will be extra tough because no amount of pump work or speed work can make you just gnarly strong, right? In other words, if you're trying to find a way to get your strongest possible without that low rep grind, like if you do a set of 4 hard, that last one barely comes up. If you're like, man, I hate this sets of 3 and 4 shit. My elbows hurt, my shoulders, I don't get a pump. It's awful. It feels heavy in my hands. I don't like it. If that's you, don't bother looking for alternatives because you won't be your strongest. Typically, the people that get the strongest from training are ones that love that shit. There's some people that can barely get away from it. They do a set of 8 and they're like, it feels like cardio. They do speed work and they're like, I feel like I'm not training. They do a grinder set of 5 and they're like, their eyes light up. They love it. At the end of the day, that's a really good thing because that's what really is the core of making you the strongest you can be. So that's the plus sides and why people are sometimes tempted to say like, you got to go fucking heavy. And if you're not, then you're not doing anything for strength. It's just an illusion. Well, there are other ways of training that can complement strength, and some of them complement strength to an incredibly effective degree. So that if you think only super heavy work is strength training, it turns out that's not true. The core of your training should be heavy, but it's not everything. There are at least 2 other things you can be doing, should be doing, if you're going to get your best possible results from strength. The first is hypertrophy work in the 6 to 10, and we can even push it 6 to 12 for small muscle group isolations. 6 to 12 rep range can build a ton of size while costing you much less fatigue than if you tried to build that same amount of size with sets of 3 to 6. When you have that size, first of all, bigger muscles are directly usually stronger. And even if not directly stronger because the nervous system hasn't been trained super heavy in a while you've been training for higher reps, when you take that new muscle you grew from higher rep training, you can teach it through nervous system and fiber alignment with sets of 3 to 6 for several weeks or months to be the strongest it's ever been. Big muscles are stronger muscles, if not in the short term, definitely in the long term, which is why everyone who's ever benched over 700 is fucking enormous. There's not a single person that's benched over 700, which is to say there's like 5 people total that have done that doesn't have a ridiculously enormous chest and arms. They just don't exist. Same thing for people that have deadlifted over 1,000, squatted over 900. You can't leverage and wire your way into insane lifts predictably. And if you can in one lift, it's because of leverages. Guys that are amazing deadlifters that don't look super jacked are usually dog shit bench pressers because their fucking arms are too goddamn long. They could be good bench pressers too if they weighed 50 pounds more and they had bigger chest and arms. Size is king for strength. And if you train for size, especially with that 6 to 12 rep range, that really puts on a ton of size, but is not so different in training from the 3 to 6. Like, yeah, maybe you don't want to do sets of 15 to 20. That's for bodybuilders that have less functional muscles. Sets of 6 to 12 is amazing, and you can train months like that without going heavy. And then after a period of just several weeks, maybe a month or two at most, you make the transition back to heavy training, and it's a wellspring of new strength that you never, literally never could have realized with smaller muscles, right? You're basically making the car engine bigger by expanding your muscle size. So if someone notices that you're training for sets of 10 because you're in a powerlifting hypertrophy phase and they say, thought you were fucking powerlift, dude, we're the doubles and triples, just kindly push their fucking face the fuck out of my way. Nothing really says go fuck yourself like a face push. I sure hope the YouTube algorithm isn't advanced enough to notice I'm swearing excessively like 5 minutes into this video. Anyway, so that's one way of training for strength. Higher repetitions for hypertrophy to support strength. That's awesome and a good idea. And if you're not doing it, you're missing out. Secondly, technique-only training is training in the 3 to 6 rep range, but at like a 5 RPE or lower. Okay, we're talking about much lighter weights. Like, so for example, it can be something like 50 to 65% often of your 1 rep max done for a set of 3 to 6. It's super easy, but it pays dividends. First, it can improve your nervous system's ability to exert force, and it can really let you improve your technique, because there may be a situation where you trained 2 times that week heavy. If you trained a 3rd time heavy, it would crush you for next week. It's not an option. You could take a complete day off of training, let's say squats again, but what if you train squats with this recovery only or technique only kind of training? 3 or 4 sets of 3 to 6 reps at 50% of your 1RM. What's going to happen is your technique is going to improve. Your nervous system's ability to fire rapidly is going to improve, and that directly can make you stronger, period. But it does so at a tiny fatigue cost, sometimes at actually a negative fatigue, because it can help you recover by moving you around more. What ends up happening is if someone comes into the gym and says, dude, like, what fucking percent of your max even is that? Like, you really think that's going to get you strong if you're fucking lifting pussy weights? They have a point if you train like that all the time. But if you do mostly heavy training and supplement it with some of this technique-only training, not only can it help you sometimes recover even better than if you did nothing, but it actually does, in that context of heavy training, make you a little bit stronger than you otherwise would have been. And the really awesome thing about it is if you're still super beat up and you can't go heavy again, you can still go light and see the benefits. So you maybe don't have to take as many days off as you think and sit at home and be like, damn, I wish I was recovered enough to train 3 times a week. Fuck, I can only squat 2 times a week. Oh, no. You may be able to squat 3 times a week, just not all of them can be super heavy. But because we already know, we just learned, sets of 3 to 6 very submaximally can be beneficial, you can still go in and benefit. Yeah, egotistically, it's not fucking great because you're there like making sure the hot girl, who of course keeps tracks of everyone's 1 rep maxes in her head, you don't want to be seen with 200 pounds on the bars. Like, people walk by and you're squatting 200 for sets of 5 and you're like, I'm a 400-pound squatter. They're like, what? Like, I just wanted you to know that so you didn't judge me. They're like, I don't even fucking know why you're talking to me, right? Like, people are paranoid about lifting lightweight because they think it'll judge. They're probably judging themselves. If you can put that shit aside and realize you're a performance athlete, you can absolutely do lighter weights when you're not recovered to do heavier ones. Low reps, high speed, excellent technique. It makes you better, period. So if you want to get better, occasionally lifting light is a very good idea. Now, taking all that together, what is the best total approach? First, most of your weekly sessions, and on average sessions through the year, if you're looking at block periodization, should be hard and heavy in that 3 to 6 rep range. I mean, fucking training for strength, you're training for strength, okay? And if most of your training doesn't look like that, at the very least over the year, you're not really training for strength. You just tell people you're training for strength. So mostly you do sets of 15 to 20, and you say you're a strength athlete, but it's unlikely, right? So most of your training should be heavy, but when adding size is your goal, You can spend months in the 6 to 12 rep range, no problem, maybe not actually increase your strength during that time, especially if you're advanced, because as your muscles are getting bigger, the nervous system qualities and the architectural quality of your muscle are declining because you're not training it heavy anymore. But after you ease back in, possibly you just get stronger the whole time. But even if you're not and gain roughly the same strength, maybe lose a little strength during that time, which can be a total mind fuck. We'll address that in other videos. After that phase of hypertrophy, if you're successful and you eat enough food, etc., your muscles are so much bigger that now we apply the system of training with mostly heavy sets of 36 reps. You're going to get the strongest you've ever been, right? And lastly, if you can only truly go hard and heavy X number of times a week, you can probably fit in some tech-only work or technique-only training. Remember, sets of 3 to 6, but super light, roughly 50% of your 1-rep max or something like that. You can fit that in, mathematically X plus N number of times a week. So maybe if you can train hard twice a week in the squat, maybe a third workout can be done easy, technique only, and that will make you absolutely stronger in the long term. It'll even make you stronger in the short term because it's really going to quickly refine your technique. Technique is something that you can train way more than strength or hypertrophy, and it really responds to high frequencies and can quickly improve, right? In addition to that, this utilization of these technique-only sessions can really lead to a significant reduction in injury risk because you're not ever tempted to push your body when it's not ready. If you only have like one gun in your holster, and that gun is heavy training 3 to 6, you may be tempted to be like, yeah, I can only recover twice a week, but fuck that. I'm going to suck it up and go 3 times a week. And you get hurt. But you want to squat 3 times a week because you know more is better to some extent, but you just can't survive it. There's always that temptation to just do more. But now that you have another gun in the other holster of lighter work that you know supplements that and still makes you stronger, but is safe as fuck, because who the hell is getting injured doing 50% of 1-rep max for sets of 3 to 6? Look, if you get hurt doing that shit, you had it coming, okay? This is going to happen anyway. You could have just walked up a flight of stairs and pulled your quad at that point. So if you have that as a gun you can pull from another holster, then when you feel like you're like, man, two sessions a week is not enough, I want to do more, you're like, oh, well, I can do more by trying a technique-only session. And look, if you can recover enough to do 3 hard sessions, yeah, for sure, do it. But if you can't, you don't have to have the choice of either I do 2 sessions and I stay home the rest of the time, which is frustrating. Now you have the choice of, well, I can do 2 hard sessions and then I can still show up to the gym, maybe do a hard deadlift session or something, and after that, do some light technique work in the squat. It makes me better overall without this dogma of I always have to go heavy. So if you can get over that, you can include hypertrophy work, you can include technique-only work, and it can make you better overall. Folks, use this insight to get stronger, and when you get so strong that you can fight all the world's militaries and win, remember the little guy, mostly me. See you next time.